Okay, welcome to the session on applications in human resource management. The objective of this session is to give you a practical oriented understanding about 3 applications which involve certain aspects of human resource management. I intend to do 3 applications, 2 cases and 1 critical incident. I hope you will become serious and then read the relevant 3 applications at least for 3 times and then try to understand the analysis that I am going to give for each application. My analysis is not going to be perfect. However, reasonably, it is going to be adequate, and that will enable you to have a certain practical oriented understanding about the relevant aspects of managing people at work in an organization. The first application, that is a case, the title of which is disciplinary action, Vinyanukula Kriyamarge in Sinhala. Sirisena Gamage had been working in Ajanta glass factory for more than 19 years. His service reports were excellent and there was no complaint or accusation against him so far. So this is about a glass factory and about a person who is Sirisena Gamage, who is a mechanic, who has been working for the organization for more than 19 years. His service reports were excellent. So that means his performance evaluation about his performance was excellent. There was no complaint or accusation against him so far. මේ දක්වා ඔහුට එරෙහිව කිසිදු පැමිණිල්ලක් හෝ චෝදනාවක් නැත. He was popular as a well-disciplined employee in the matter of observing company rules and regulations. He made his first mistake on 5th October 1999. First mistake, පළමු වැරැද්ද ඌවතින් සිදු වුණා. 5 වෙනිදා October 1999. He did not hear the sound of the bell, which was used to restart the work, because he had fallen asleep at tea time near his machine. The main supervisor, who was going by overseeing the work at the machine section, noticed Sirisena sleeping. Sirisena, who had slept during the time when the machine should be on operation, was accused for an infraction of rules at the factory and had to face a disciplinary inquiry. So therefore his rule violation, what was his rule violation? He slept during the time when the machine should be on operation. Slept during the time when the machine should be on operation. So that's a violation of discipline, and then he was accused for that, and then he had to face a disciplinary inquiry. විනය පරීක්ෂණයකට මුහුණ දෙන්න උට සිදු වුණා. Sirisena admitted the fault. වරද ඔහු පිළිගත්තා. Sirisena පිළිගත්තා. His defense was that he had fallen asleep as he was suffering from starvation without having the usual meal, rice, for several days. So he couldn't have the usual meal that is rice for several days. So therefore, at the time of breaching the rule, he was suffering from starvation. Yani බඩගින්නේ ඉඳලා තියෙනවා. දින කීපයක් සඳහා ඔහුගේ සාමාන්‍ය කෑම වේල බත් නොලැබීම නිසා ඔහු බඩගින්නේ ඉඳලා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිදාගන්න වෙලාව. Both the personal manager and the supervisor decided to give the most lenient penalty. So what was the most lenient penalty? To suspend the work without pay for 5 days. To suspend the work without pay for 5 days. Thus, පහක් සඳහා වැටුප් රහිත වැඩ නතර කිරීම was the minimum lenient penalty given so far in the company for an employee who had been caught sleeping during the working time. Okay, so however, to suspend the work without pay for 5 days was not implemented for Sirisena. The Sirisena got the punishment, that is reduced, to suspend the work without pay for 3 days instead of 5 days. So දවස් 3ක් සඳහා පඩි කපලා වැඩ නතර කිරීම සඳහා නතර කිරීම කියන දඬුවම තමයි සිරිසේනට දුන්නේ. But Sirisena's union does not accept this as a lenient penalty. Yani සිරිසේනගේ වෘත්තීය සමිතිය මෙය ලිහිල් දඬුවමක් වශයෙන් පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ. Is this a lenient penalty? 3 days wage is a 1/10 of this man's monthly wage. What a lenient penalty you have given at a time of starvation. Thus said the union regional secretary. In any other company, this penalty is given for an offense done on 2 or 3 occasions. You have cut the wage for the first time. So saying, he further protested. වෘත්තීය සමිති ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම්වරයා තවදුරටත් විරෝධතාවය පළ කරා. මොනවා කියමින්ද? In any other company, this penalty is given for an offense done on 2 or 3 occasions. يعني මේ වගේ දඬුවමක් දෙන්නේ දෙවෙනි වතාවට හෝ තුන්වෙනි වතාවට තමයි. නමුත් පළවෙනි වතාවටම වැටුප් කැපුවයි කියන චෝදනාව විරෝධය වෘත්තීය සමිති ලේකම්වරයා ඉදිරිපත් කළා. According to the company's conventions, the management did not agree to reduce the penalty further. This was forwarded to an arbitrator accepted by the both parties according to the collective agreement between the union and management. So therefore, the management did not agree to reduce the penalty. So therefore, there was a conflict between the management and the trade union. The trade union demanded to reduce the penalty. The management did not agree to reduce the penalty. So therefore, this problem was forwarded to an arbitrator, accepted by the both parties according to the collective agreement between the union and management. Yani කළමනාකරණය වෘත්තීය සමිතියක් අතර පවතින සාමූහික ගිවිසුමට අනුව දෙපාර්ශ්වය විසින්ම පිළිගන්නා ලබන බේරුම්කරුවෙකුට මෙම ප්‍රශ්නය ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. Okay, so try to understand the story. Okay, this is the story. In order to understand the story fully, you are supposed to read at least 2 times or 3 times. So I believe 3 times. Definitely reading for 1 time is not sufficient. Okay, questions now. Is it essential to punish Sirisena? A. B. What is the central problem in this case? C. If you are the arbitrator, how do you solve the central problem? Okay, now go to the first question. A. Is it essential to punish Sirisena? According to my experience of observing responses of students from various classes. Most of the students responded in this way. It is not essential. It is not essential to punish. Sirisane. It is not essential to punish Sirisane. But this is not the right answer. Don't become emotional. Okay, so managerially you have to answer. This is human resource management. This is human resource management. Personal feelings, relationships, you should not take when we make a real good decision in managing people. So therefore, it is not essential to punish Sirisane. No, that is not the right answer. Indeed, it is essential to punish Sirisane. Why? Why? It is essential to punish Sirisane. Why? At least two justifications can be given. At least two justifications can be given. The first justification, the theoretical justification, the use of the use of the hot stove rule theory. This is first theoretical justification. Can you remember the hot stove rule theory? So according to the hot stove rule theory, there are four principles that are very useful for managing employee discipline. Under corrective discipline, after employees have violated certain rules of discipline, the management is supposed to take certain actions. So these actions come under corrective discipline. So the hot stove rule is a useful theory under corrective discipline. නිරවද්‍ය විනය යටතේ භාවිත කළ හැකි වැදගත් න්‍යායක් තමයි the hot stove rule theory. So according to the in fact, when I was teaching discipline management, so please go to that video. So then there is no video really for hot stove rule theory, because in the traditional classroom, this topic was done. So anyway, the relevant learning material is there. So I hope that you can remember. So if you don't remember, then please refer to the relevant materials and then get that understanding of the hot stove rule, according to which there are four principles. One is warning, the first one warning, second one immediacy, third one consistency, fourth one impersonality. So here the relevant principle is impersonality. Relevant principle is impersonality. So that means whoever touches the hot stove, he or she gets burnt. The hot stove doesn't care the person who does touching it. If a manager does touching, that manager is going to be burnt. If a non-manager does touching the hot stove, that person also going to be burnt. So it doesn't care the gender. It doesn't care the status of the employee, the contributions of the employee. It doesn't care. So whoever touches the hot stove, he or she is going to be burnt. Therefore, Sirisane Gamage indeed is an excellent employee. Is an excellent employee. So even though the person is an excellent employee, Sirisane Gamage is a male. Even though Sirisane Gamage is a male, even though the Sirisane Gamage has been working more than 19 years for the company, for the company. Whoever violates the discipline, he or she should be punished, must be punished. So therefore, Sirisena Gamagi should be punished. That is essential. Then the second theoretical reason, second theoretical justification or second reason justifying that it is essential to punish Sirisena. The objectives of positive approach to corrective discipline. Can you remember this one? The objectives of positive approach to corrective discipline. Corrective discipline. So what are the objectives of positive approach? But before that, under corrective discipline, there are two approaches. Okay, under corrective discipline, the management has to take disciplinary actions. So that means the management has to give certain punishments to the employees who have been wrong, who have violated the relevant rules of the discipline. Then when giving punishments, basically there are two approaches which you must have learned: positive approach and the negative approach. So according to theory of HRM, positive approach is recommended, negative approach is not recommended to follow when managing employee discipline in an organization. So under positive approach, at least there are three objectives of punishing, three objectives of giving a punishment to the employees. What are the three objectives? Can you remember? First one, to reform the offender. Varadin mudava yahapate yedavi, to deter others from similar actions. Samana වැරදවල් වලින් අන්‍යයව අවවාද කරලා බිය ගැනීම, to deter others from similar actions. The third one, to make our rules and regulations effective. So therefore, in order to reform the offender, in order to deter others from similar actions, in order to make rules of discipline effective, it is essential to punish seriously. However, the degree of punishing is something else. Okay, this is about whether the management should punish or not. Okay, this is one thing. Then if punished, then what is the degree of punishment? This is another matter. So this question is concerned with this one, whether the management should punish or not. This one, whether the management should punish or not. So it is not the gravity of the disciplinary action or the degree of punishing. When it comes to degree of punishing, of course, we have to consider certain things. The other question is whether Sirisena, who has been an excellent employee, should be punished or not as far as this rule violation is concerned. I hope you understood. Then the second question, what is the second question? Or B, what is the central problem in this case? Indeed, every case sets out a central problem that has to be identified by you, and then that has to be settled by you. You are supposed to make proposals in order to settle the central problem in any case. Right? As far as this case is concerned, what is the central problem? Central problem is how to get a compromise. How to get a compromise between the union and management. Union and management with regard to this problem. Okay. How to go? What now? There is a kind of industrial conflict. There is a conflict between the union and the management. So that is an industrial conflict. The union, okay, the union does not like to accept the punishment. So what is the punishment? To suspend the work without pay for 3 days. 3 days. Indeed, according to the policy of the company, to suspend the work without pay for 5 days was the minimum lenient penalty given so far in the company. So according to policy, that is the minimum lenient penalty that should be imposed on an employee, who gets caught, about sleeping while working, sleeping on the job while working. Okay, so but anyhow, the management decided to make it, somewhat lenient. I mean, further lenient by giving the punishment, that is to suspend the work without pay for 3 days. But that is not accepted by the trade union. The management also does not like to reduce the penalty. The trade union does not like to accept the penalty. The management does not like to reduce the penalty. Then that's the conflict. But with this conflict, this conflict has to be settled. Otherwise, there will be bad consequences relating to productivity, relating to customer satisfaction, and various other things relating to objectives of the organization, objectives of HRM. It is important to have a good cordial relationship between the union and management. So therefore, there are various bad consequences if we don't settle. That may happen, or that will happen if we don't settle this problem. So therefore, then how to get a compromise between the union and management? That means we have to, give a solution that is acceptable to both the union and the management. We can't give a solution that is acceptable to only one part and not acceptable to the other part. That is not a compromise. That is not a compromise. Right. So I can present 3 alternatives. Our time is limited, but I can present 3 alternatives to solve this problem, this central problem. Alternative decision 1. Alternative 1. What is that? To persuade the union, okay, this is the right spelling, right? Persuade the union to accept the penalty imposed on Series A. This is the alternative 1, to persuade the union to accept the penalty imposed on Series A. By giving these 2 theoretical arguments also. So we can use these two theoretical arguments to persuade the union, to convince the union. ඒත්තු ගන්නනවා. පිළිගැනීමට ඉවහල් වන පරිදි ඒත්තු ගන්නනවා වෘත්තීය සමිතිය. මොකද්ද? දෙන ලද සිරිසෙන්ට දෙන ලද දඬුවම සාධාරණ බවට ඒත්තු ගන්නවා. For that, in order to convince the union about the reasonableness of the penalty, it is possible to use. It is possible to use these two theoretical arguments. Theoretical arguments. First one, the use of the hot stove rule. Then the second one, the objective suppositive approach to corrective discipline. Right. Is it going to be a workable solution? No. This is not workable. Not workable. Why? This is not workable. Why? That means theoretically, this is a solution for the problem. However, practically, it is not going to be a successful decision, successful solution. Why? Because this decision is in favor of the management against the trade union. So therefore, this is not a compromise. Compromise is not a solution, which is favorable to one party and unfavorable to or for another party. In order to be a compromise, the solution should be favorable for both parties involved in the conflict. So theoretically, this is a solution. Then alternative 2. Alternative 2. To change the disciplinary policy, okay, disciplinary policy, to change the disciplinary policy so as to soften the gravity of the penalty. Given to citizen. Penalty to citizen. This is the second solution, alternative solution. Is this workable? This is also not workable. Why? This is not a compromise. This is favorable for the union, unfavorable for the management. Unfavorable for the management. Therefore, this is also not a compromise. That is not going to be workable to solve the, this conflict, the central problem, industrial conflict between the trade union and the management. So changing, so even in this case, consider this: what is the rule violation? What is the rule violation? When the machine, should be on operation, the citizen got sleeping. The citizen was asleep while on duty. So when the machine should be on operation, is that a serious violation? Yes, it is a serious violation. If something happens, then it will be very costly. If the machine had needed some oil, if the machine had needed some changing, maybe the speed of speed or something else, then the cost, without meeting the need of the machine, the cost, the company could have incurred a very big loss. It is true that it did not happen. But anyway, there's a possibility of occurring. There's a possibility of occurring a big damage to the factory, especially to machine, to the machine. Machine, needs, from time to time, certain things. Oil, then the fuel, even maybe a power failure, or even mechanical failure. These things, can happen. Can happen. So therefore, while, when the machine should be on, when the machine, yes, where is that? This one, yes, here, who had been caught sleeping during the working time. Where is that? Yes, here. Slept during the time when the machine should be on operation. So therefore, while on duty, sleeping of a mechanic is a serious offense. That is not a lenient offense. That's why the company, has decided to give a punishment to suspend the work without pay for 5 days. But anyway, did management consider special things relating to citizen? Yes, because by considering, here was the minimum lenient penalty given so far in the company for an employer, but the penalty was given to citizen by reducing it up to 3 days. So we can infer, based on this, we can argue that the management has really considered. We can infer the management has really considered special things relating to citizen, special facts relating to citizen. What are the special facts relating to citizen? Fact 1, citizen has been serving for the company more than 19 years. That shows his loyalty. That shows his loyalty. That is fact 1. Then fact 2, his service reports were excellent. That means citizen has been an excellent employee in terms of job performance. That is another fact. Also, this is the first mistake, first rule violation. Before this, he had not violated any rule. He had been seriously a well-disciplined employee. So this is the first rule violation. Now that is another fact. That is another fact. Then he accepted, he did not deny. He did not deny the rule violation. He admitted the fault. Now that is another fact. That is another fact. Then what was his defensive reason for rule violation? His defensive reason was this: he couldn't have usual meal. The usual meals, that is rice for several days. Then he was so tired that, or he was so suffering from starvation that he got sleepy, or he got sleepy, or sleepiness came to him, and then he was asleep, or he had fallen asleep. So therefore, this defensive reason is a reason that demands sympathy. Assume what was said by citizen in defending the rule violation. Assume that is true. That is true. So therefore, all these facts, if we consider, yes, we have to reduce the gravity of the punishment. That was done really by the management. That was done really by the management. ඒ කියන්නේ සිරිසේන ගමගේ කියන්නේ විශිෂ්ට සේවකයෙක්. අවුරුදු 19කට වඩා වැඩි කාලයක් වැඩ කරා. පළවෙනි වතාවටයි මේ වැරද්ද සිද්ධ වුණේ. ඒ වගේම වැරද්ද පිළිගත්තා. ඒ වගේම වැරද්දට දුන්නු වැරද්ද ඇති වෙලා තියෙන නින්ද ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඔහුගේ සුපුරුදු ආහාර වේල ලබා ගන්න බැරි වුණ නිසා දවස් කිහිපයක්. ඒ නිසා බඩගින්න ඉඳලා තියෙනවා. ඔය කියන කාරණා සලකා බලලා සිරිසේනට දී යුතු දඬුවම ලිහිල් කළ යුතුයි. අත් වශයෙන්ම ලිහිල් කරලා තියෙනවා. කළමනාකාරීත්වය ඔය කාරණා සලකා බලලා තියෙනවා. So these facts were considered by the management. So after considering these facts, the management decided to make the penalty more lenient. To suspend the work rather than suspending the work without pay for 5 days. The penalty given to Sirise was to suspend the work without pay for 3 days. 3 days. But remember, the penalty, the rule violation is a serious one. In case of a mechanic, the sleeping of a clerk may not be that serious compared with the sleeping of a mechanic while on duty. Correct. Okay. So but then if we change, if we suggest to change the disciplinary policy so as to soften, so that means further reducing the gravity of the penalty. Maybe verbal warning or written warning, more lenient penalties. Verbal warning is the most lenient penalty. The written warning, somewhat higher in terms of gravity. But still it is lower than to suspend the penalty, that is to suspend the work without pay for 3 days. However, changing disciplinary policy procedures, because of one person is not a good practice. It is going to be a bad precedent. So therefore, this is not a compromise, because this is favorable for the trade union, unfavorable for the management, or against the management. Sorry, against the management. Right. This solution is against the trade union, in favor of the management. This solution is against the management, in favor of the trade union. So therefore, both solutions cannot be considered as compromises. Then alternative 3. Do not change the penalty. Do not change the penalty, but take action to reduce the gravity of the punishment on Sri Jayewardenepura and his family. So according to the regional trade union secretary, according to the regional trade union secretary, the punishment, the value of the punishment is 3 days wage here. 1/10, the high in eka, 1/10 of this man's monthly salary. Monthly salary. 1/10 of this man monthly wage. So assume the salary is daily salary is 3,000. Okay, daily salary assume 2,000. Assume this may not be real, but anyway, assume. Then into 3 days. 6,000. Assume this is 1/10 of this man's salary. This is a big one. So then cutting 6,000 will have a significant negative impact on Sri Jayewardenepura and his family. on Sri Sen and his family. So, so we do not change the penalty according to this alternative. Then the decision is going to be favorable for the management. Management doesn't like to reduce the penalty. Then we respect the decision given by the management. So do not change the penalty. Then the management is going to be happy because of the decision. But take action to reduce the gravity of the punishment on citizen. Then the trade union also is going to be happy because there is an action to reduce the gravity of the punishment on citizen and his family. So therefore, this is a compromise because it is favorable for the both parties involved in the conflict, significantly. Then how to reduce the gravity of the punishment specifically on citizen and his family. There are several alternatives. I will show you two alternatives. Alternative one, on installment basis. We can reduce. On installment basis, we can reduce this 6,000. Rather than cutting the 6,000 from one salary package, from one salary, cutting 6 months. So sorry, cutting 6,000, from one salary. Rather than doing that, on installment basis, we can reduce. Maybe by 1,000. Then for 6 months, by 1,000 per each month, we can reduce. That will be a reduction of the gravity of the punishment on citizen and his family. Another alternative. We can assume there is a policy with regard to bonuses or incentives. The company gives a bonus, valuing 2 months. 2 months salary. 2 months wage. 2 months wage, assume. The company gives 2 months wage. 2 salaries, so 2 wages as the bonus. Annually, the company gives. If there is a significant profit at the end, then the company has a policy to give a bonus, the value of which is 2 salaries. 2 salaries. Of the relevant employee. Assume the company has a policy of giving a bonus that is 2 months wage. 2 months wage. Then the 6,000 can be deducted from this bonus. That is another alternative of reducing the gravity of the punishment on citizen and his family. So I can give you in fact, this was an actual case happened in Sri Lanka. So on the actual case, the arbitrated award was this. In fact, the citizen had 7 days. 7 days of leave, not utilized. Normally there are 21 days given for an employee as the days of leave. So by that time, the citizen had not utilized 7 days of leave with pay. Then from these 7 days of leave, 3 days 3 days were reduced. Then there was a punishment, but which was an indirect punishment. Directly, there is no cutting the wage by 6,000. Okay, so then the citizen lost 3 days of leave with pay, which he could have enjoyed. He could have enjoyed. So in fact, this in the actual case, this was the solution for reducing the gravity of the punishment on say. So in fact, here now I have given 3 alternatives. So if you are very innovative, you must be able to add another one or two. Okay, all right. So right, then this was the solution. This was the solution to settle the central problem of the case. Okay, right. If you are the arbitrator, how do you solve the central problem? Already discussed. Already discussed. So what is the central problem in the case? So this one. Okay, so this one, central problem. And then the possible 3 solutions. And this is the solution that we recommend. Okay? Right. Okay, now case supervisory training course. Professor Maitri was contacted on the telephone by the Assistant Director of Labour Industry Service Section and was invited to teach a course to the workshop foreman in the Super Machine Limited. Workshop foreman Baru in the Super Machine Limited. He suggested that Professor Maitri visit the Human Resource Manager at Super Machine Limited to become oriented to the company and its problems. Super Machine Limited employed about 300 people and produced electrically operated motors and different kinds of machines using these motors. The personnel manager told Professor Maitri that he liked to take advantage of Saraswati University's program. Saraswati University to which Professor Maitri belongs, titled University Industry Corporation, Vishwavidyalaya Karmanta Sahayogi, designed for mutual assistance by having the university give one course for the foreman every year on some aspects of supervision and industrial relations. Some aspects of supervision. One course for the foreman every year on some aspects of supervision and industrial relations. Adikshane saha karmika sambandhata pilibanda yam ans sadaha patamala kaurun wenwenda for the foreman every year. Right. The full cost of these courses was paid by the Labour Department from a budget founded by an international organization in the country. International organization in the country. As the company could not spare the foreman during the working hours, the course was given 1 week. Course was given 1 afternoon each week for 10 weeks. Okay, so as the company could not spare the foreman during the working hours, the course was given 1 afternoon each week for 10 weeks from 4 to 6. From 4 to 6. 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. The foremen came directly to the course from their jobs. After finishing their work, they directly came to participate in the course. They received 1.5 time rate overtime for these extra hours. Because the company lacked training class facilities, the human resource manager arranged that it be held in the quarters of a club patronized by the human resource manager and some other executives located a few blocks away from the factory. So this club was situated in an old house in a quiet part of the town. A makeshift classroom was set up in the former dining room of the house. Yeah, මේක ඇවිල්ලා all house එකක්. ඒක training center එකක් නෙමෙයි. It's a makeshift class room, not makeshift, sorry. Makeshift classroom was set up in the former dining room of the house. කියන්නේ තාවකාලිකව පන්ති කාමරයකට සරිලන විදිහට සකස් කරගත්ත කාමරයක්. ඊට පස්සේ මේ තිබිලා තියෙන්නේ කෑම කන කාමරය, So in the former dining room of the house. පෙර පාවිච්චි කරලා තියෙන්නේ එම කාමරය කෑම සඳහා. Some card tables were placed to make a conference type layout. The blackboard consisted of an old table, top painted black, placed on the table and leaned against the wall. Light was provided by an old-fashioned chandelier from which several bulbs were missing. Okay, so this is the nature of the training place. So you try to understand by reading 3 times. By reading, okay. On the Monday afternoon of the first class, Professor Maitri found that he had to introduce himself to the class of 16 foremen. Himself. There was no one to introduce this resource person, Professor Maitri, to this training group that consisted of 16 foremen. The human resource manager had sent a message through one of the foremen to say that he was busy and could not make it, introducing the resource person to the class. Because there was no chalk for the blackboard, one of the foremen volunteered to run across the road to buy some. Not like, nowadays, then we had the blackboard and then we had the chalk. Nowadays, we have the whiteboard and white pen. Professor Maitri had prepared a course on outline that contained the following topics: nature of a foreman's job, what foremen expect from management, what workers expect from foreman, elementary aspects of organization, motivation, making work assignments, coaching, complaints and grievances, leadership, discipline, like leadership and discipline. He made weekly assignments of about 25 to 30 pages in a textbook on supervision. The classes were conducted on a lecture basis with some case studies. Okay, so there was a textbook on supervision, and then the classes were conducted on a lecture basis, and then some case studies used. Now I'm doing a case study. So therefore some case studies with regard to supervision were used by Professor Maitri to give the required knowledge and skills to the trainees. The Professor Maitri noticed that the men were always late for the class, always late for the class, although there seems to be in and about, not out, in and about the building, Finally, at 4 p.m. on the third week, he decided to explore the building. To his surprise, he found most of the men drinking beer at the bar located in a room at the far end. In class, the foremen were courteously attentive on the surface, but basically seems unenthusiastic. ඒ කියන්නේ ක්ලාස්රූම් එකේ පෙන්නනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ හොඳින් සවන් දෙන බව. මොකද ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම උද්‍යෝගිමත්කමක් ඔවුන් සතුව තිබුණේ නැහැ. In many of the discussions, they started that they had learned about various aspects of human relations and supervision was given to him by other instructors in the previous year. Professor Maitri began to wonder why he had been invited to repeat the same things. The men said on more than one occasion that the ideas about leadership and human relations contained in the book and in the professor's talks, talks or lectures were okay in theory, but they would not work at Super Machine Limited because of what? Because of Mr. Goranadu, the factory manager. So in theory, all these principles are okay according to the perception and observations of these trainees. Professor Maitri's talks, lectures were fine in theory, but they would not work at Super Machine Limited because of Mr. Goranadu, the factory manager. කියන්නේ ග්‍රන්ථයේ සඳහන් මූලධර්ම මහාචාර්යවරයාගේ දේශනය ඇතුළත් න්‍යායාත්මක දේවල් න්‍යායාත්මක වශයෙන් මූලධර්ම සංකල්ප න්‍යායාත්මක වශයෙන් හොඳයි. නමුත් ඒ ප්‍රායෝගිකව මෙම ආයතනයේ වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ, would not work because of Mr. Goranadu, the factory manager. They claimed that Mr. Goranadu knew nothing about human relations and was tough to deal with, that the union always went directly to the human resource manager. So there is a union in this company. The union always went directly to the human resource manager because no point of talking to factory manager who knew nothing about human relations with the grievances, and that they as foremen had no authority. All discipline was handled by the human resource manager in the company. Okay, right. Professor Maitri observed to himself that these foremen felt more like workers than members of the management. They even dress in blue shop work clothes. The casting section foreman made the following statement to him one day: I have worked in the company for 25 years and have been a foreman for 15 years. But maybe I should have taken a job somewhere else. One day, I was standing on the street corner when a truck from the Acme Limited went by. The driver must have just got his pay envelope because he threw away the empty cover, and I picked it up. He gets 10,600, and that is a lot more than what I get as a foreman. So this case was prepared by one of my great teachers. So in fact, he is the teacher who taught me ABCD in Human Resource Management, Associate Professor R.A. Pereira. So originally he prepared this case with slight changes. I adopted for my classroom teaching. Right. So the nowadays, okay, let us take this one. Okay, 60. Nowadays, because this case relates to the past. So let me make it more realistic at that time. Right. 30,000 and 30,600, and that is a lot more than what I get as a foreman. Okay, so the Professor Maitri observed to himself that these men felt more like workers than members of the management. And Mahacharya Maitri නිරීක්ෂණය කරා මේ අයත් වශයෙන්ම කළමනාකාරීත්වයේ සමාජිකයන්ට වඩා ඒගොල්ලෝ නිකන් සාමාන්‍ය කම්කරුවන් වගේ. They even dress in blue shop work clothes. Again, samanya, there was a practice in all days. Workers dress in blue shop work clothes, but managers dress in white shop. White, the color of the dress for a manager was white. The color for a non-manager was blue. The casting section foreman made the following statement to him one day. Casting section neke foreman varaya Mahacharya Mrs. Sandan, I have worked in the company for 25 years and have been a foreman for 15 years. But maybe I should have taken a job somewhere else. One day I was standing on the street corner when a truck from Acme went by. වීදි කොනක සිටගෙන ඉන්න විට අක්මි සමාගමේ ට්‍රක් එකක් එයාව පාස් කරගෙන ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. The truck driver must have just got his pay envelope because he threw away the empty cover and I picked it up. කියන්නේ රතෙන් ට්‍රක් රතෙන් ලියුම් කාර්යයක් එළියට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා, විසි කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ ට්‍රක් රතේ රියදුරු so the empty cover පඩිය ගත්ත කවරේ කියන්නේ පඩිය වහලා තිබුණු කවරේ මේ අදාළ ඩ්‍රයිවර් රියදුරාගේ. So he gets රියදුරා ගන්නවා ඒ දවස්වල 30,600. So ඒ ප්‍රමාණය මේ ෆෝමන් කෙනෙක් හැටියට මේ කම්පැනි එකේ මම ගන්න ප්‍රමාණයට වඩා ගොඩක් වැඩි. There's a lot more than what I get as a foreman. Okay, now the questions. What could this foreman training program accomplish for the company? Question 1. What are the merits and demerits of this training program? Question 2. If you find any demerits and under 2 above, to whom? Demerits under 2 above, to whom and to what reasons would you attribute them? Would you attribute them? Question 3, then question 4. If you were the human resource manager, how would you have run this training program? Okay, like the source. You can see the source. Okay. Can you do? Dear students, in order to understand the content of the case seriously, completely, you must read the case at least for 3 times. 3 times. First time, just to understand what is going on. Second time, to understand the various characters involved and then some details. Then third time, of course, to understand seriously what is in the case for the purpose of analysis. For the purpose of analysis. So I'm going to give you an analysis in line with the, yes, in line with the questions. Okay, how could this formal training program accomplish? What, not how, sorry. What could this formal training program accomplish for the company? Yes, the positive impact of the training program is not much. Most likely not significant. Why? Because of the fact that this training program given to foremen is not based on the real training need of the foreman. Real training need of the foreman. සැබෑ කියන්නේ මේ ෆෝමන් වරුන්ගේ සැබෑ පුහුණු අවශ්‍යතාවයක් මත නෙමෙයි මේ පුහුණු වැඩසටහන පදනම් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. පදනම් උනේ ඇත්ත වශයෙන්. The training program was not based on a real training need of the foreman. So therefore, the impact, the positive impact of this training program is at low level. Most likely, it is not significant. You know, we should give a training in order to meet a real training need. A real training need refers to a real lack of ability to do something, lack of ability of the employee to do something. There must be at least one key weakness or imperfection in the foreman, and that needs to be eradicated totally or minimized through a training program. Now, when there is no balance between the employee's capability and job demands, there is capability deficiency, which needs to be removed through right training. So therefore, please refer to the relevant learning resources about the topic training and development. Training and development. There are 2 videos for training and development, part 1 and part 2. Please study. Then you can understand these theoretical things. Capability deficiency. So if there's a capability deficiency, yes, we have to remove it through right training. A good training program should give a certain learning to the trainees. Here, trainees are forming. So to learn is to change positively. You know that. I taught you to learn is to change positively. Yanima yanu ධනාත්මක වන්නේ වශයෙන් වෙනස් වීමයි. නැත්නම් වෙනස් වීමට තමයි ඉගෙනීම සිදු කරන්නේ. To give a learning, why do we give a learning to someone? Because we want to change that person positively. To change positively occurs after changing positively capabilities of the trainees. Changing positively means, increasing capabilities of the trainee. Increased or improved capabilities occur after acquiring right knowledge, skills, and attitude. So this training program given to foremen does not contribute in that way. So therefore, the impact of this training program on improving human relation capability, and then relationship between the foreman and workers, and then finally productivity, then workers' job satisfaction, those things, we want to improve. We want to improve productivity of the workers. We want to improve job satisfaction of the workers. We want to improve job involvement of the workers. And we want to improve the relationship between foremen, managers, and the non-managers, foremen and workers. For that, specifically, a course on human relation attempts to develop human relation competency or competencies within the foreman. But in fact, that has not happened. Because the foremen really were not enthusiastic about the training program. They were late to the class. They were not enthusiastic. They were not serious about the principles given in the textbook, principles which were in the lectures given by Professor Maitri. They were not serious about them. Also, they have learned these things from previous training courses. So it means that these foremen, they have a good understanding about human relations. They have acquired certain knowledge, the right knowledge, hopefully. If previous training programs were successful, then they must have acquired right knowledge and skills about also the attitude about human relations, right attitude. So therefore, this program did repeating the same thing, repeating the same things. So according to these foremen, those principles in the textbook and also the professors' lectures, they were okay in theory, but they would not work at Supermachine Limited because of Mr. Gorana, who is the factory manager. So the factory manager, this factory manager, knew nothing about human relations. So he was an arrogant, autocratic leader. He did not care about these human relations. So even the trade union also did not have discussions with that person. The trade union always interacted directly with the human resource manager, with the grievances. Also, these foremen had no really the authority. They were just like workers rather than members of the management. Members of the management. So therefore, this training program is not really a successful program. Question 2, what are the merits and demerits of this training program? So merits mean plus points, good things of the training program. Demerits mean bad things of the training program, negative things. Okay, what are the merits? One merit is the trainer is a qualified person. Merit 2, the training content is right. So look at the training. Okay, who is the trainer? Trainer is a professor in the field of supervision and industrial relations. And this is the training content. So training content is right really. So if there's a need of giving a training program or course on human relations, certain aspects of supervision and industrial relations, then each topic is relevant. It comes under supervision and in industrial relations. The nature of a foreman's job, then what foreman expect from management, and what workers expect from foreman, then elementary aspects of organization, motivation, making work assignments, coaching, complaints and grievances, their settlement, then leadership, discipline. So these things are relevant. As far as supervision is concerned, human relations. The topic of human relations is concerned. So therefore, that is another merit, merit 2. The training content is right. And then also think of the training methods. Another merit, third merit, a combination of training methods. The textbook is one method, then the lecture basics, the lecture method is another method, and then case studies. At least there was a combination of lecture method and case studies. Of course, supported by a textbook on supervision. That is good, rather than having only lectures or lecture method, rather than having only case studies. The combination is better. So that we can consider as a merit of the training program, because these people are experienced foremen. Right. Then third question, if you find any demerits under 2 years, demerits of this training program, to whom and to what reasons would you attribute them? I have not I have not shown the demerits. Okay, I did showing the merits. Now the demerits. What are the demerits? One demerit is not based on real training need. This training program was not based on a real training need or real training needs. So there was no need identification. Identifying training needs was not done. So if you train any employee, first we have to understand that employee's training needs. So when we develop a successful training program, it is essential as the first step to identify training needs of the relevant employees. After identifying training needs of the relevant employees, you have to do other steps of developing a successful training program. The first step of developing any training program, development program, is to identify training needs of the relevant people. Without doing that, whatever the program that we are going to design is not going to be implemented, is not going to be successful. Therefore, that's a major demerit. Another demerit is the place is not appropriate. Another demerit is time is not appropriate. Another demerit is no essential facilities. No essential facilities, had been given. So no chalk, only the blackboard, and then no refreshments. We don't know whether about transport facilities and other things. Then another demerit, no introduction to the resource person. So that shows the importance given by the human resource manager and other managers to this training program. For making a training program successful, it is important to give an introduction to the resource person, to the relevant group of trainees. That will lead to develop a good attitude, right attitude about the training within the trainees. Also, if there is no one to introduce Professor Maitri, so it means that the management attitude about this training is not that serious. These, foremen are experienced people, so they can understand. But, assume human resource manager and CEO, at least those two managers, if they had participated in the training program, that could have developed a right attitude within these trainees about the training program, because that could have shown the importance, seriousness given by the top manager and the human resource manager to this program. So in the actual case, there was no human resource manager participating in the training program, at least for a short time, maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour. At the first session, at least at the first session. Then Chief Executive Officer, if he had participated in the first session for a time of 15 minutes, that could have shown the importance of importance of this training, seriousness given by the top people to this training. Then another demerit, coming to the training after working hours. These foremen were supposed to participate in the training program after doing the daily work. So then when they participated in the training program, they must have, definitely they were tired. They were tired. Okay, so then if they were tired, then they could not concentrate. They, could not have the ability to concentrate. on the lectures. To get the best from a lecture, there must be a very high level of concentration, listening, understanding what is being delivered. Okay, then another demerit, there was no any training evaluation. That may be the reason. What may be the reason for that? Maybe one reason is the money. The money did not belong to the organization. This organization. The money was given by an international organization under a special project. So therefore, this money did not really belong to the organization. The cost for the training program was not borne by the organization, by an international organization. That may be a reason that these top people, the human resource manager, did not, give a serious attention. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The money, doesn't belong to this organization. It is money, financial resource, also the time, energy. Waste of money, waste of energy, waste of effort. So in that context, the management was not efficient. Right. So then for these demerits, to whom, do you really blame? Who is responsible for these demerits? Who is or who are? So if you find any demerits, of course, now I mentioned 8 demerits. 8 demerits. First one, the training program was not based on a real training need. So in that, no need identification had been done. Second demerit, the place is not appropriate. Third demerit, the time is not appropriate. Then fourth demerit, no essential facilities available. Then demerit 5, no introduction to the resource person. Demerit 6, non-participation of senior people, senior person, at least for a short time in the training program. CEO and specifically CEO and the human resource manager. Then demerit number 7, the practice followed by the company for the training program. About the foremen came directly to the training program after finishing their work. Then they were tired really. They were tired when they started their training program. The demerit 8, no training evaluation was done. Okay, so then who is who is responsible for these demerits? Mainly the human resource manager. The human resource manager is responsible. Because these things, these things are the duties of the human resource manager as far as training function is concerned. The human resource manager is supposed to identify training needs before designing any training program and implementing. The human resource manager is responsible for providing a suitable place for training, suitable time for training, suitable facilities for training, and also the right introduction to the resource personnel. So at least, in this case, the resource person, only one person, not personnel. That is the responsibility of human resource manager. Human resource manager. Of course, it doesn't matter, he is very busy. What matters here is to, participate in this training program and give an impression of the seriousness and importance given by the managers to this training program, so that these trainees develop right attitude about training program. They themselves become in attending to the training program, in participating in the training program. Okay, then in addition to human resource manager, who is responsible for demerits of this training program? Chief Executive Officer, General Manager or Managing Director, that person also is responsible. The top manager did not give a right supervision of this training program, even though training program was done by using money belongs to an international organization. This is money. This is money. So therefore, the top manager could have given a right supervision. Also could have asked the human resource manager to do an evaluation about the effectiveness of the training program. Proper instruction for evaluation of the training program would have been given by the Chief Executive Officer. Chief Executive Officer. Then Professor Maitri, in fact, the Professor Maitri also before, because Professor Maitri, of course, is a qualified person, a right person for giving this type of training program to experience farming. There's no doubt about that. So Professor Maitri could have inquired about the way of developing this training program. Professor Maitri could have inquired about the training needs identification. Okay, then final question, question 4. If you were the human resource manager, how would you have run this training program? Of course, to develop the right answer for this question, you must know the relevant theory, the theoretical aspects of developing a training program and implementing a training program, and also evaluating a training program. So I have taught a systematic process of training. So please refer to the relevant resource materials. A systematic training process. So according to the systematic training process that I taught you, there are 7 steps. Step 1, identify training needs. Step 2, prioritize training needs. Step 3, establish training objectives. Step 4, determine training evaluation criteria. Step 5, make other related training decisions, which include content, materials, methods or method, trainers, duration, time, place, meals and refreshments, traveling and payments, and also the budget. And then step 6, implementation. After doing from step 1 to step 5, then there will be a program that has to be implemented. That is done under the step 6. Then step 7, after implementing the training program as planned, then an evaluation has to be done in order to determine the level of success of the training program. So step 7 is then to evaluate the success of training program. So therefore these steps will have to be followed ideally to develop a training program, then to implement a training program, and then evaluate the success of training program. So therefore it is essential to identify training needs of these farming at the job level, at the personal level, and also at the organizational level. Okay. another essential thing for a successful training program is selection of the right trainees. Selection of the right trainer is an essential thing. Also, selection of the right trainee or trainees for the training program is another essential thing for the successful training program. If the resource person is very excellent, but if the trainees are not the right trainees, the training program is not going to be successful. Not going to be successful because training is given to trainees. So therefore, there must be right trainees who have imperfections or training needs, which will be met, which will be reduced, or which will be eradicated by the training program, So as far as this training program or course is concerned, the company has not selected the right trainees. We go to this one, Mr. Goranadu, the factory manager. He knew nothing about human relations. So therefore, one right trainee for this training program is Mr. Goranadu, even though he has not been selected as a trainee for this training program. There may be some other senior managers who don't know about human relations or who know about human relations, but they don't have right attitude about human relations or right skills about human relations. So these managers must be selected as trainees for the training program. The relevant international organization assume that is serious about training, human relations, industrial relations, supervision aspects. So then the training program is about human relations and certain aspects of supervision, even in industrial relations. Then it was not good really to select foremen who were several times trained about these aspects. Okay, right. Now, a critical incident. The super management training. Kathy had been the employment office manager for just 10 weeks. She had spent the first week acquainting herself with office procedures and trying to get a feel for the needs of the employment office. The employment office handles the recruiting and selecting for a large corporation employing about 10,000 persons. It screens about 10,000 people a year and hires between 10 and 15% of those screened. So this is a large company. So that attracts, recruits about 10,000 people a year, and then selects and hires 1,000, between 1,000 and 1,500 applicants. 1,500 applicants. It's a large number. The relevant manager here is the employment office manager, whose name is Kathy. This is Kathy. Kathy noticed a requisition for a management training for one of the offices on the south side of the city. South side of the city. Okay, so there was a vacancy for the post of management training. So this requisition had been on file for 6 weeks. 6 weeks and had remained unfilled. Kathy took it upon herself to fill the requisition as soon as possible. 2 days later, a very likely looking candidate for the position was referred to her from testing. From testing. So testing is one of the methods of employee selection. Employment examination, employment testing. So this company has used testing as a method of employee selection. Then from testing, a very likely looking candidate for the position was referred to Mrs. Kathy. The individual who had been referred to Kathy was Wilson, an aggressive young man of age 22. අවුරුදු 22ක් වන කලාකාරී තරුණ පිරිමි කෙනෙක්. He had not finished college but had come within 1 semester of graduating. When questioned, Wilson revealed that he had quitted the school to support his terminally ill mother after his father had died of cancer. So this person did not complete the college education and did not obtain the relevant degree or diploma. Then, yes, without completing, he had quitted the school. The reason of quitting the school was to support terminally ill mother because his father had died of cancer. Right. So the Wilson kena පුද්ගලයාගේ පියා කැන්සර් එකක් නිසා නැති වෙලා තියෙනවා, මිය ගිහින් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඔහුගේ මව තනි වුණා. ඒ තනි වුණු මවට උදව් කිරීමේ අදහසින් තමයි college education එක නතර කරලා තියෙන්නේ. Wilson was an impressive young man. සිත්ගන්නා සුළු තරුණ පිරිමිය. And his firm handshake, ඔහුගේ දැඩි අතට අත දීම, firm handshake, pleasant smile, සිත්ගන්නා සුළු සිනහව, and quick wit impressed Kathy immediately. What is quick wit? Ikman අවබෝධය. Quick intelligence or shrewdness. Mukaribasa, there are certain people, who can talk in an intelligent way, even though they are not that intelligent. They can talk in the way that will make others to conclude that the talking person is a very intelligent person. That is the meaning of quick wit. As far as this application is concerned, right? Impress Kathy immediately. His scores on the aptitude test were not as high as Kathy would have liked, but she felt that personal qualities exhibited by Wilson overcame these difficulties. Personal qualities, පුද්ගලික ගුණාංග, exhibited by Wilson. What are they? His firm handshake, yes. Then pleasant smile, and then quick wit. These are the personal qualities exhibited by Wilson. So they made Kathy attracted towards them. And then Kathy ignored the examination marks, which were not high, or which were not at the level of expectation. Then Kathy felt it was very obvious that this individual was the kind of person who would make a good manager. So Kathy predicted that this person would be a good manager in future. So no need to contact Wilson's former employers. Kathy sent Wilson to the manager of the office where the position was located. Shortly thereafter, Kathy received a phone call from the manager indicating that he shared a high opinion of this young man. And Wilson was hired. 3 weeks later, Kathy got a telephone call from the manager. The manager most angrily suggested that Kathy ought to be a bit more careful in the kinds of candidates chosen to be considered as management trainee prospects. Wilson had been discovered stealing from the company and had been fired last week. This Miss Kathy, she had a high opinion of this young man. So they අදාළ කළමනාකරුවාට ඇබෑර්තුව තිබුණු දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ අදාළ කළමනාකරුවාට දැනුම් දුන්නා. එම කළමනාකරුවාය ඉහළින් පිළිගත්තා. ඒ අනුව විල්සන් බඳවාගත්තා. But 3 weeks later, සති 3කට පස්සේ තත්ත්වය සම්පූර්ණ වෙනස්. අදාළ කළමනාකරුට බෙහෙවින්ම කේන්ති ගිහිල්ලා suggested යෝජනා කළා තියෙනවා කැතීට මීට වඩා careful වෙන්න ඕන. පරිස්සම් වෙන්න, to be more careful in selecting people as management trainees, because management trainees are the people who take the business for future decades. They are the people who are going to be future managers. So therefore, management trainees are a very important category of employees for the organization, which selection of management trainees needs extra care. High level of seriousness, high level of professionalism is needed for selecting candidates to fill job vacancies for the job of management training. Kathy was mystified and amazed that she could have misjudged someone so badly. Mystified, puzzled, ව්‍යාකුල තත්ත්වයට පත් වුණා Kathy. Mrs. Kathy, and amazed, පුදුමයට පත් වුණා, surprised that she could have misjudged someone so badly. She decided to check with Wilson's former employers and found that the reasons why he had left at all, the reasons given by him why he had left the college were not true at all. Yes. College Wilson හැරගිහිල්ලා තිබුණා සම්පූර්ණයෙන් college education එක උපාධිය හෝ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයට අනුබද්ධ ආයතනය කියලා අපි හිතමු. College, university, the college is a school, which is attached to a university. So then this university education or college education, he did not complete, he left. Then at the interview, he told that in order to help the terminally ill mother owing to the demise of his father. Yes. ඔහුගේ පියා මිය ගිහින් තනි වුණු මවට උදව් කිරීමේ අදහසින් තමයි කොලෙජ් එඩියුකේෂන් නතර කරේ කියලා තමයි ඉන්ටර්වියු බෝඩ් එකේදී සඳහන් කරේ. But from the, with this checking, so checking, what do you mean by here? Checking, background investigation. So in fact, Mrs. Kathy did not do a background investigation at the time of selecting Wilson, but now she decided to do a background investigation through Wilson's former employers. And as a result of that, she found this one. And she also found out that Wilson's father and mother were alive and well. Well, so then what a liar, Wilson. It's very bad. Telling that, father had died, of cancer, but father is still living. It's very bad. Kathy spent a rather melancholy day reflecting on the difficulty of selecting good employees. Melancholy or melancholy, yes. Melancholy. What do you mean by melancholy? Sokanukula, dukin pirunu, kansa saita. They reflecting on the difficulty of selecting good employees. Nivardi and on the seva daken tora ganime dushkarata. Indeed, selection is not an easy thing. Selection of right people is not an easy thing. It is difficult. It needs seriousness. It needs high level of professionalism. Okay, now questions. Identify and figure out the selection process applied by the company. Second question, critically evaluate the selection process. Third question, what are the errors associated with Kathy? How can they be prevented in future? Okay, first question, identify and figure out the selection process. So that means you are supposed to draw a figure that shows the selection process applied by this company for selecting candidates for the post of management training. Okay, let me show the figure, the relevant figure. The selection process adopted by the company is given in the below figure. Have a serious look. Here you can see rejection, pratikshepa kirim. Then there are three methods of selection. One is application evaluation. First one, the second one, employment test. Third one, interview. There is no information in order to judge. Actually, the application evaluation has been done by this company for this selection. There's no sufficient information. So we can assume that that was done or that was not done. Okay, that was done or that was not done. Not sure. Okay, not sure. Right. Then definitely employment test was done and then interview was done. So therefore, this is the selection process followed by the organization. The second question is criticize. Critically evaluate the selection process. Critically. That means you have to talk about good things of the selection process, also bad things of the selection process. Plus points and minus points. Merits and demerits. Okay. Demerits. So in order to ascertain demerits of this process, you must have a good understanding about a typical selection process. A selection process that can be used as an example. Okay, in order to identify demerits of this selection process which was adopted by this company for selecting management trainees. You must have a good understanding about a typical selection process, an ideal selection process. So I taught you about this typical selection process. Have a serious look at this process, at this figure. This was taught by me. This was taught by me. So please refer to the relevant learning material and also the video. Be serious and style. I'm not telling that this is the best method for employee selection, but this is a good method. That's why it is considered as a typical selection process. A selection process that can be used as an example for employee selection. The first method of selection is application evaluation. Then second method, employment test. Third method, interview. Fourth method, background investigation. Fifth method, medical test. So then now compare this one with the actual practice, the selection process. Two very important things are missing. One is background investigation. The other one is medical test. Doing a background investigation is a must because of several reasons which I taught you at the time of teaching selection, employee selection. And also medical test also is a must. So nowadays, this corona time, it is mandated to do a medical test at the time of selection. Not only at the time of selection, certain tests, relating to this corona, now have become normal things to do. When we have to live now with corona. So when living with corona, okay, right. Then application evaluation, if the company did not do, that also can be used as a good method of employee selection. Right. So what is good about this selection process? Okay, so one demerit is that the background investigation is missing. Another demerit is that medical test is missing. Another demerit, if application evaluation was not done, then application evaluation is missing from the selection process. The three demerits. Then what is a merit? Can you find out a merit associated with this practice? This is theory. This is theory. This is practice. So one merit is that the cost, cost is relatively less because there is no doing medical examination, there is no doing background investigation. Doing medical examination and doing background investigation are costly. They take a significant amount of cost, effort, and so it's costly. Costly means yes, significant amount of time, significant amount of effort, significant amount of money. So therefore, as far as this process is concerned, the selection process is concerned, relatively, that has a lower level of cost. That is a merit. But anyway, that merit, the impact of merit is not that much because the impact of demerits, in the impact of demerits exceeds the impact of merit. That's why Mrs. Kathy, faced this type of situation. This is a critical incident. So the critical problem is that selecting a wrong person. You should know the importance of selecting right people. When I was teaching about selection, the selection function, I stressed several reasons to show the importance of employee selection. Please refer to them and study. Right. Then third question, what are the errors associated with Kathy and how can they be prevented in future? Kathy was Mrs. Kathy was the relevant manager here. Mrs. Kathy, yes. Right. Have a serious look at these. 3 errors I have mentioned here as a reply to that question. She is suffering from halo effect. That is one error. Second error, she has violated the selection procedure. Third error, no right attitude about the seriousness of employee selection on the part of Mrs. Kathy. Seriousness of employee selection. So she is suffering from halo effect. What is halo effect? This, the halo effect also I taught you. When an interviewer assesses a job applicant on several criteria, the error of halo effect occurs commonly. If the interviewer evaluates the applicant high or low on all criteria because of one criterion or 2 criteria, that is halo effect. Considering the applicant to be excellent in one particular area or factor or criterion, the interviewer goes to indicate that he or she is excellent in all areas. In all areas or all factors, or all criteria. So this is halo effect. So this can go negatively, also this can go positively. So therefore she got attracted. Because of what? Because of personal qualities exhibited by Wilson. Firm handshake, a pleasant smile, and quick wit. So she ignored purposefully the examination scores secured by Wilson, obtained by Wilson. She has not considered really the education, which is a very important criterion to be considered when selecting a person for the post of management training. Right? Education is important, in fact, very important for a management training, because management training is going to be a future manager. There is a possibility of even going up to the level, the highest level of the organization, CEO. The management training can have potential, that potential. In the second error, she has violated the selection procedure, ignoring examination scores. That is a violation. When there is a selection process, there are certain steps. Those steps, have to be followed without missing any, without ignoring any step. The procedure is a procedure that sets out certain steps in order to achieve, or in order to do a certain action, or in order to achieve a certain objective. Those steps have to be followed sequentially. That's the meaning of a procedure. Procedure doesn't have room for interpretation. It is not subject to managerial interpretation. කළමනා කරවන්නට ඕන විදිහට procedure එකක් වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ. Procedure ක්‍රියාපටිපාටි දක්වනවා යම්කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් විසඳීම සඳහා, යම්කිසි අරමුණක් ඉටු කර ගැනීම සඳහා අනුගමනය කළ යුතු නිශ්චිත පියවර. අනුපිළිවෙලින් දක්වනවා පියවර 1, පියවර 2, පියවර 3, so likewise. So this also can be considered as a procedure. This is a selection process which can be considered as a procedure. So assume that this is a selection procedure, then as the first method, application evaluation has to be done. That cannot be, violated. First, the relevant officer or officers have to do, the relevant officer has to do, or relevant officers have to do, conducting application evaluation. After that, employment test has to be done. If there is a step like this to conduct medical test as the final step, so then the relevant manager has to do it. Okay, right. Then third error, no right attitude about the seriousness of employee selection. That's why not doing background investigation, not doing medical test. Perhaps because this is Mrs. Kathy is the employment manager or the relevant manager who is specializing in employee selection, employee recruitment and selection, employment. So employment includes recruitment and selection mainly. So assume she is a qualified person. Then that means she has right knowledge. She must have. She must have right skills. But problem may be she is not having the right attitude about the seriousness of employee selection. Doesn't believe that the employee selection is very serious. Doesn't feel that employee selection is very serious. Doesn't have a serious intention to behave with employee selection seriously. Okay, so then how to avoid these things, these errors? Of course, the major solution is right training. Another, right counseling. Yes, okay, the counseling also we can put, or coaching, we can put under training. The right training is needed for Mrs. Kathy, or right, specifically right counseling is needed. That is to be given by a senior person, of course, who is more qualified than Mrs. Kathy in terms of experience, in terms of education, in terms of training, even in terms of rank. Better if you can find such a person who can give a right counsel to this person in order to avoid these errors. Another solution, another solution, rather than giving the authority of selecting candidates, selecting, applicants to fill vacancies to one person, rather than giving the authority of employee selection to one person, we can give that authority to a team, a group of right people. Then there are several people, at least assume 2 people. There are 2 managers involved in selecting. If these 2 managers are right, then normally we can believe that 2 heads are better than 1 head. It is not good to give the authority of employee selection to only one person. It is good to give the authority of employee selection to a group of people, right people, at least 2 right managers, at least 2 right managers. Another solution is to have a more objective selection scheme. More objective selection scheme. Okay, so then use of group for employee selection. Another one is use of an objective selection scheme. Okay, so these are three solutions in order to avoid errors of this nature, in order to avoid problems, bad critical incidents of this nature. Okay, all right. I hope you got the relevant practical understanding through these three applications. Please study several times. Please read these applications for several times. Previously, I mentioned at least 3 times. Okay, right.